Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to Gettin' Savvy in Health, Wealth, and Beauty. Important to note that everything is for entertainment purposes only. Please do speak and meet with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. And also, please meet and speak with your GP before making any health or beauty decisions. Okay, Melissa, here we are. We're always in different spots. But the first thing I said to you, I'm like, your top is so pretty. It's like a violet, a light purple.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bluey purple. I'm very into like lavenders and purples right now.
Are you?
Yes.
Right now. Because normally it's
right
hot
now,
pink.
it's spring. Normally I'm not, but I've been going there with like my nails and I wore this like nice, like lilac-y, or I don't know, it was like more lavender blazer last night when I went out. This is a great top. I got it on sale like years ago, like 5 years ago. It's Alexander Wang and it's cute. I wear it all the time.
Wow. Did you so it's so funny because people have been listening, whatever. We've talked a lot about Revolve, the stock, and then of course you and I went into the Revolve store when we were in Aspen and you encouraged me to buy 2 skirts there. I wear them all the time.
See?
Their stuff is just curated so well and things you wouldn't normally find in a regular store. This was like they're a pop-up store originally, but it is going to be, a permanent store now, and it just helps someone like me to see some things, but then you can go online and take a look at that designer again.
Yeah. And even like on the Revolve, they have like certain shops and you can type in exactly what you're looking for. And yeah, it's easy. As long as you get like, you just have to get comfortable doing the returns, knowing how to do the returns. Yeah, that's the thing that people shy away from because you have to expect it's like any normal dressing room. When you try something on, you're going to only keep a couple of the items. So you have to get used to doing those returns.
Just while we're on it then, because one of my other friends bought some stuff at Revolve and she found the returning very difficult. It was annoying for her. So what's your masterful way to do this?
Practice. So you have to shop more.
Okay. Practice.
Everything.
Come on.
It's annoying for anything's annoying when you learn how to do it for the first time. So it's actually, if you do it more, like it's pretty easy. You go on Revolve returns, you type in your postal code, it pulls up your order, you print out the packing slip, you put it in a back in the, so this is the thing, you can put it back in the box or the bag it came in, unless they shipped it express. If they did, then UPS doesn't take that. So you just put it in a box, you put the thing on, and you drop it off.
Where do you drop it off?
So the closest UPS to me is
okay. So UPS
a couple blocks away. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you pay for the shipping, right?
Give you free shipping.
Free shipping.
Yeah. So you just literally deliver it, like give it to them.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's pretty easy. It's the first few times you do it, it's confusing, right? But if you do it moreover, like you just have a process and you just drop it off and no big deal.
Okay. That it's interesting too, and I ask who pays for the shipping because from a consumer perspective, it's obviously good, but from a company and owning the stock perspective, that's obviously one of their costs that they have to incur.
I don't know 100%. Like I feel like I'm not paying for the shipping because when I go to physically ship it, it just goes. I don't think whether they're including a cost for that, probably that it's just hidden.
Right.
Like there's so many marketing things that are hidden that I'm sure they do where the customer doesn't feel like they're paying for it, but in some way they are. I'm sure it's,
Yeah. Okay. What's on your, there's a lot to talk about in the market, and also there's a retail stock we're going to talk about as well, but what's on your docket this week?
So this week was so busy with the election here in Canada and with the Leafs and the playoffs. There was just a lot going on in the news. So health-wise, I feel like there wasn't that many stories that caught my attention. Obviously, people are still talking about measles. It's still a problem, a growing problem. So I think we should touch base on that again. Also talking about the merger or the I don't know what you want to call it, on Hims and Hers stock with and how they decide to sort of join forces rather than competing against each other. They thought like they've joined forces now. So for Hims and Hers is going to be offering brand name Wegovy and Ozempic through their site at a discounted price. So that's interesting. Study I saw on early colon cancer and acne vaccine.
What vaccine?
Acne.
Acne?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So,
Really? Okay,
mhm.
that's why don't we start? Well, okay, let's from a market perspective, obviously we're going to touch on the markets, which, I think everybody's been aware that they have been under such significant pressure from the beginning of April to about mid-April. And then we've seen a huge rally over the past 8 to 9 trading days on the hopes of some type of trade deal or easing tensions between the United States and China, even though that was so debated. So that also earnings, we've heard a lot from, we talk about this, how important earnings are, because it's a time where the company reports what they've just, what they've just done for the previous quarter from a sales and profit perspective. And then they also give their outlook and the stocks move on that. So it was a big week of earnings. We'll talk a little bit about that and some company specific stories on the back of earnings, like Aritzia. So just a few things in the market, but I think too, with the Canadian elections this week, there's just been a lot of focus, on what those economic policies will be,
Yeah.
and and then it's earnings. So that's kind of it in the markets for me.
So, I mean, I know we don't get too political on the podcast, but I'm just
Yeah.
at some of the things I've heard because, as a doctor, I get lots of people coming in and talking to me, and also at my daughter's, you know, uh, like at extracurricular events, you talk to some of the moms and you just hear all these people's perspectives. And I always just take note of some of the things that are said to me. So a few interesting things that have been said to me are one, um, trade in all your Canadian money for gold bars is one interesting thing that was said to me. And a second interesting thing that was said to me was Carney is often the smartest guy in the room. So so don't be so bearish, and he's very smart, and they're two obviously conflicting views.
Yeah.
On the one, it's like, oh no, Carney's coming into power, sell Canada, and what does this mean, and are we going to be taxed? And then another view, obviously for people that are pro him, is super smart guy and maybe some good policies coming. So I don't know, it's very confusing to know what to do, but have you been hearing similar sentiments? Or
Well, it's interesting
and what
you
does
bring
that
up
mean? When someone says trade in your Canadian money for gold bars, why would they say something like that?
well, so that's interesting to me. And I think it's a couple of reasons. One, gold has always been used as a store of value.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's difficult to transport, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You can store it, you can move it somewhere, you can buy it somewhere. And then, supposedly it can't be devalued, right? By monetary policy, by federal policy. It is supposed to operate essentially on its own. It's not a currency that can be moved up and down by the
Oh,
policies that hurt a country, right? We have to remember, right? When Harper was in power, our dollar was at par. It was actually above the United States dollar, truly. And the currencies were
when was Harper in power?
that. So that was when the dollar was above par. It was around 2012, 2013. And the
Okay.
reason why I remember that is because my mom and I had bought a condo in Florida, and we converted the money above par. So the United States had just come out of their financial crisis. And so my mom and I were able to get a condo at, fraction of the price. And we were able to convert the Canadian dollar to US dollars above par. So it was a huge win, huge win.
Yeah.
But getting back to the point, is, currencies reflect what is going on in the country. So when you have some of the South African countries that, South American countries that have very, very high inflation, their currencies often are very weak because there's obviously a problem within their country. So for Canada, over the past, 10 years, Trudeau's policies have really hurt the Canadian dollar twofold. One is because they didn't want any pipelines to be built. So all that foreign money left Canada, didn't develop in Canada. And we've had essentially no growth for 10 years. So if there's no growth, why does anybody want to put money into the country to invest it? And therefore the dollar would go up just because the value of what we're creating here goes up. I mean, there's more to it, but that's essentially it.
But that's essentially, yeah.
Yeah. And then because we had no growth and so much spending, That caused inflation. And we just put, good money after bad money, which is also recognized. And then the dollar also takes a hit on the back of that. There's so many different aspects to it, but it basically does reflect the country's current situation and then prospects. And think about this: the U.S. dollar over the past week or so has hit a 3-year low. Why? Because people are concerned about what's going on in the United States as it relates to tariffs and that whole sell America trade, which either is going to be wrong or it's a great time to buy US dollars.
Yeah. Right.
So what do you really believe, and not getting caught up in the noise, and I'm still a big believer in Buy America. So,
yeah.
But back to the gold bars, quite frankly, I've been thinking about it myself. This week. What?
Where do you put them?
I don't know. I'm going to have to, I know people who do this, like who've been doing this for years. So I'm going to do a little digging.
Yeah. No pun intended.
Definitely no pun intended. No pun. And I do not do puns, but I think it, and you know what? People always say it's a good diversifier. Mind you, you always like to quote Warren Buffett. He does not buy gold.
No.
Does not buy gold bars because you do have to store it, which costs money. Is it easily transferable to buy a cup of coffee? No. Right. Which is why. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't know. We do not know.
Although you never know. What's that? We give you cash for your gold,
Yes, exactly. So yeah.
It's interesting about Buffett because, I was reading this. I always get all these little factoids about him, but this new thing that's been circulating on Instagram, it talks about how he's quoted saying that he drinks 5 Coca-Colas per day. 5. Okay. Not Diet Coke, regular Coke. So that's like 700 calories of pure sugar he drinks a day. And I was going to say, I always trust his financial advice so much, but I don't trust his diet and health advice. Although, there you go, he's 94 years old. So obviously other factors are at play. That's why it was just interesting because, and also it was relevant to me because he's a huge shareholder in Coke. I think they 10% or at one point did. So does he love Coke so much? Did he buy that stock because he just thinks this is the best product in the world, given how he consumes it? Or does he consume it because he's a big shareholder? It's both.
It's both. And it's probably, he's done the analysis and believes that they have the brand and, dominates the market. Great product, great cash flow, great management, all those things that, you check the box if you, if you want to buy a stock. That's his style of investing, among many other things.
Diabetes.
Pardon?
I wonder if he has diabetes.
I don't know.
I mean, you would think that much Coke in a day, like that much sugar, I would think he'd be at risk for diabetes.
Okay, well, let me tell you about.
I don't know, but
okay. So years ago, when I was on the trading desk at one of the big banks, I was on the institutional side. So I really encouraged this one big portfolio manager to buy McDonald's stock. It was trading at like $15. Okay. It's in the hundreds now. Nobody wanted it because everybody thought no one's going to eat junk food anymore. This is like 2005. Okay. And I thought, no. I personally do love McDonald's, the food. And, so anyway, this client said to me, goes, you would never eat McDonald's. And I said, yeah, I love it. And so, he was in a different state. So you always, go and see your clients with analysts and everything. And I said, I'll take you out for lunch and we'll go to McDonald's. And normally you do like a big steak lunch or you'd be like fancy. Right. Okay. And so they were like, you can't take a client to McDonald's for lunch. I'm like, I can, and I will. And anyway, he bought the stock, but the reason why I'm telling you this is because I also wanted to pair it with a company called DaVita, which does the dialysis. It's like, like dialysis centers. So DaVita, because it sounds awful, right? It sounds like, okay, eat the food and then go get your dialysis. But I do remember not long after that, I'm quite sure Warren Buffett had a position in DaVita.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of that being a good business.
Yeah. I don't know now, because there's a lot with the whatever the liquid treatment would be, that because you sit there and you get injections, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you
And
have to sit
so
there for a long time getting your dialysis. Yeah.
right. And so there years ago, you had to really understand what the healthcare insurance companies would pay for
Mm,
and what they wouldn't pay for. And so when that got a bit more complicated, I kind of just stepped away from looking at that stock.
yeah. Well, because I don't know if it's still the number one cause of kidney failure, but diabetes obviously, you know, can lead to kidney failure and lead to people needing dialysis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
So,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
So wait, where
But
were we?
yeah, let's go back.
Gold bars. That
Oh,
was it. Okay.
yeah. Okay.
But
So
don't forget too, wait, sorry, don't forget too, that's why a lot of people have gotten into cryptocurrencies, because it's the one currency, it's a currency that politicians, governments can't control, don't have access to, can't see what you're buying or not. Because remember, one of the big concerns out there is for any government, and Trump said he will not do this, is to have a digital currency, because a digital currency that the government controls or can oversee basically can say, oh, you're drinking too much coffee, not allowed to do that.
what do you mean? I don't get it.
Well, a digital currency, you've got to, it's like anything. You're if it's digital, they can see what you're doing, right? You can see on your phone who you're calling. Instagram knows what we're watching, what we're forwarding.
But
So,
not if I thought not if it's like on the blockchain or offline.
so
Yeah.
correct. I should be more clear. A centralized digital
Okay.
currency.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's critical.
I can't follow. It's very confusing. And now with like David Sachs being in charge of the crypto for, the US, and they're
Mhm.
trying to own a lot more cryptocurrency. I can't, the average person can't possibly understand what's going on and predict
Yeah.
what's happening. But I think, like you said, it's just, do you believe in the growth in America? And if you do, then just keep with your investment plan and
Mhm.
continue with, an index fund.
Right.
Have
And if you
some, yeah.
And if you do have concerns right now about the unknown and the uncertainty and what the policies will be, people sell their stocks and they move to cash. And then the question is, and that's what's so interesting about your comments. People are like, okay, well, cash, do I want to hold Canadian dollars? Should I convert it into US? Should I convert it into gold bars? What should I do with it?
Yeah.
So those are all the questions out there right now. We don't have all the answers, and nobody does. Like that's the point too, right? People have very different perspectives right now, is what I'm really finding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
I was thinking about it the other day, how like, a lot of people are people that are in the financial services area or investment or, they're very afraid right now, especially in Canada. But also, I think for people in the US, like everybody's so afraid, thinking of worst case scenarios. And it kind of reminded me of the doctors during COVID. I feel like the people in the financial world were like, COVID, what are these doctors?
true.
All these masks and the vaccine, it's going to be fine, right? Whereas now it flips around, and a lot of doctors and people are looking at all these finance people being like, oh, it's going to be fine. Worry.
That's true.
Because you're in it. So it's like, it's where the perspective comes from. Most people that aren't in that world just don't understand and just believe in the future, that things are going to work out, So anyhow, I just thought it was an interesting parallel.
Definitely. Definitely. While we're just kind of maybe on the markets a little bit, I would just say that it's been a busy week for earnings. And I just want to mention that Aritzia just reported their most recent results. And your observations of the stores are spot on, right? Meaning in the brand.
Yes, yeah, I know.
You do know.
I always confuse the two sayings, finger on the pulse or eye on the ball. So I say eye on the pulse, but it's finger. I got my finger on the pulse.
Finger on the pulse. So their sales and profit came in way above expectations. Their sales for the year, so year over year. So this year versus last year, it grew 31%. Their e-commerce grew 42%. For their stock today is up 15%. Keep in
Wow.
mind though, yeah, the stock has been down by about 30% since January.
Okay.
So it definitely got caught up in concerns about the consumer, the economy, tariffs, etc. And so, this is we'll see where the stock settles out, because there could be a lot of short interest in it, which is another topic we can talk about. But the company management did say that they are concerned about the outlook. They are expecting weaker margins, and margins just means your profit
Okay.
margin, right? So how much are you making?
Costs are going to go up.
Your
Yeah.
costs are going to go up. But a lot of companies are actually going to be passing those costs on to the consumer. But Aritzia apparently has said they're not going to pass along the full tariff costs to the consumer. They're going to eat some of it, and therefore that's why their costs are going to go up.
I think that's a smart business decision, because already when I went to Aritzia, I just went myself and I bought stuff for my daughter, but I also bought stuff for myself. And when I went to the checkout, because normally you think of Aritzia as like a mid, not too luxury, I was kind of,
Mhm.
whoa, this is expensive, like more expensive than I was expecting. Like I bought a nice blazer, I bought a vest, I bought a pair of pants, like I bought clothes, not just like leggings and sweatshirt. And it was expensive. And I think if it got more expensive, I would back away
Mm-hmm.
from it. I think it would result in just less purchasing, or it would lose a segment of the people that are already shopping there. Actually, interestingly, so I went to Yorkdale this morning because my mom's in town and she needs to find a pair of shoes for a cocktail dress she has. So, and she literally tried on every single pair of shoes in Yorkdale,
Oh
and
God.
nothing. Like I was like, buy this, buy this, buy. Okay, but anyhow, that's aside. So there was when we got there was a huge lineup at Aloe, like massive. And I was like, what's going on here? And it was a 30% off day. So I still think Aloe, but these places are expensive. So people will line up if there's going to be
Mm-hmm.
a sale. Yeah.
Well, and so if you still are considering buying Aritzia, the management, when they report the quarter, and then as we've talked about, they give a conference call, and when I worked in equity research, I would, you listen to every conference call, and you listen to every single word they say for an indication in terms of what might happen. What do they really
Right.
think? And you
Uh-huh.
get to know management as well in terms of, are they being conservative? So Aritzia management on their call said they do expect a material decline in their comps, so same store sales. So sales per store is what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And then but some of the analysts out there on the street are saying, well, we think this management team is on the conservative side.
Yeah, I like
So
it. I like Aritzia. Yeah, I think
it
I love the clothes. I love the product, but I think it seems to be like going in the right direction and managed well from what I can tell or see.
and they seem to have just captured the right audience.
Yeah, it's
They
in.
seem to have a bit of a moat around their product offering.
Mm-hmm.
It's still like the stores are still interesting, because sometimes stores are not interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and the product continues to be refreshed and relevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Hit multiple groups. Like they get that teen tween, they do a really good job. And then they also get the working woman as well,
mhm. Yeah,
right?
which is
Oh,
brilliant. Like you
yeah.
can go in there and buy clothes for you and Rebecca.
And check it, which is what I find similar with the Lululemon, right? Lululemon
Right.
I can buy for myself and I can buy for my daughter. The only difference is it's only athleisure, whereas um, Aritzia is the athleisure, but then they also have the super puff, the jackets that are really popular. So then they also have the work clothes that are great. They have Babaton, that brand, which is amazing. Like they're the
Hmm,
best work clothes, the best pants, the best blazers, really cute
hmm,
stuff. And it looks fancy, like it looks expensive.
mhm.
So
So if you are looking this stuff, I just want to mention to you valuation. But you
yeah,
are more of a growth oriented investor. I'm more value. So you tend to not mind paying up for a stock if you believe that the company is going to continue to grow and has a long trajectory and can grow into the multiple, grow into the valuation. So right now, Aritzia is trading at about 50 times earnings. The
okay.
market's probably trading at about 20 times. So it's much more expensive. People are willing to pay up for the
Right.
potential growth.
Yeah. I just
So
I still just
you
buy
just buy.
indexes and then I just go with the other ones based on gut and
Yeah.
what I like.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
no, what I'm saying is I could study these PE ratios. I'm not an analyst. And, I still always go by what you know, what you
Yeah.
understand, what you see, what you feel, as long as I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket.
Yes. Fair
So,
point. Fair point. Okay, let's talk about some of your items. I want to know about the acne vaccine because I had
yeah,
acne growing up and I hated it. It's
exactly.
awful.
So there's two different companies that have them. I think one is Sanofi right now that has a trial coming out in the next couple of years. It's still recruiting, where they're going to give uh, some of the patients with acne this vaccine, the other patients nothing, placebo, and then compare the results. So that isn't starting that trial for another year or two. But there's another one already further along that they've already found success in animal studies, but now they need more testing on humans. But what I find so interesting about this, I mean, yes, acne, I put it in the same category as these blockbuster weight loss drugs. Yes, we know they're great for diabetics and people with obesity, but what about those people who are 20 pounds overweight that just don't like how they look, who have really captured, a part of that market for the weight loss drugs? I think with acne, it's a similar thing. Is this something that's going to kill you? No. But is there a huge percentage of the population that just is not happy with their appearance of their skin, who don't want to be on a systemic drug like Accutane that has some riskier side effects or stronger side effects? And if you can prevent with a vaccine the acne, I think there'd be a huge market for it. But again, and this will segue into vaccines in general. So people who, all of a sudden everybody's so against vaccines, but if there's a vaccine for acne, I'll take that,
Melissa.
suddenly, well, I just think they need to rebrand the word vaccines. I think they should get rid of the word vaccine completely and call it microdosing. So we're going to microdose some measles, okay? We're just going to give you a little bit. That's essentially what a vaccine is. It's just that vaccine has gotten such a negative connotation because of COVID that when people hear that word, they can be turned off. Unless it's something that's really important to them, where they see the benefit. Like they don't want acne, they take a vaccine. Whereas people are like, do I really care about measles? Not so much, although they should, because on a population basis, it's causing unnecessary mortality, illness, death, So I just thought that was interesting. But I think that if that works, this acne vaccine, that will be huge. That will change so many teenagers.
Yeah, it's awful. Like it really is. Doesn't feel good. I mean, that's an understatement. And
did you ever go vaccine?
I didn't. I only had it more on my chin area.
Yeah,
but it was still not fun or great. But I do remember people on Accutane, and there were significant side effects. Are they still using Accutane?
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot. It's in a little bit lower doses now, and I think a bit better tolerated, but it causes a lot of dryness.
Right.
And but it works. So for a lot of people, like it is what we recommend. Usually with acne, you start off like it's a progression, right? So you start off with just, general good skincare. If that doesn't work, then there's topical. And usually the topical go against, like acne is a combination of oil and bacteria. Those are the two things that acne. So the topical treatments work on reducing oil, so drying the skin, and then antibacterial, reducing the bacteria. So if those topical treatments don't work, or if the skin gets too red and flaky and dry, then you go to some of the oral medications. The next oral medications you would go to are, sometimes we look at the birth control pill, because that's going to change the hormones, therefore could lead to less oil production in the skin. Or you can look at a drug called spironolactone that I'm seeing a lot more patients taking now, that also is anti-androgenic, so it decreases that oil production. And then if all of that has failed, then you can go on to Accutane. And all the while, you can also be using things like lasers and these non-medical avenues. But it's a lot. People spend a lot of money on their skin. Yeah.
I wonder though, Melissa, like it's interesting, for people who get acne, like myself when I was younger, did I have more hormones or to create the oil, or
Probably. Yeah, like it's hormonal, it's genetic. So I'm
okay.
that, one of your parents or somebody in your gene line probably had
Yeah.
acne, and you just tended towards more oily skin. Whether that means you had more androgens, like that's like when men go on steroids, like when men go on testosterone, one of the side effects is bad acne on their back.
Oh.
Yeah, because of the increased androgens. Uh,
Oh.
However, some people, even with normal levels, can just have
Mm.
oilier skin.
So I wonder then, with this vaccine for
Mm-hmm.
acne,
Target the
what
bacteria.
it's targeting the bacteria?
Yeah, that was my understanding. It's targeting the yeah, the bacteria and I think the oil production. So it must be doing both. I don't know the exact science behind it,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, lowering.
And so which company's doing this?
Sanofi has one, and I can't remember the company that's doing the other.
Okay.
But there's two right now.
Okay. And just to pick up on the measles vaccines, has it been spreading?
Yeah. So like we talked about this. I feel like we talked about measles on the podcast a couple months ago when it
We
was a
did.
problem in Texas.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it more in the US, but it's also been spreading rapidly in Ontario. And I think they think the initial cases came from Manitoba and New Brunswick, traveled to Ontario and spread. And the last report I read, there was 31 patients hospitalized because of measles in Ontario. Of those 31, 30 are unvaccinated and one has unknown vaccination status. So my guess is probably unvaccinated. And one is in ICU. So,
Wow.
like, we just don't want to see. So, I think a big problem is when they polled the number of kids in Ontario in, I guess it would be grade 1 or 2, like 7 years old, it was only a 70% vaccination rate. Okay. That's really low. So, in other words, 7 out of 10 kids were fully vaccinated for measles. You need 95% to prevent it from becoming endemic again.
Hmm.
I think what happened was during COVID, a lot of the kids missed their doctor's appointments, and a lot of people
Oh,
their measles vaccine or didn't catch up and then didn't bother, and then maybe got turned off by the idea of more
right.
vaccines, and I don't need the vaccine. So rates have really been going down. And like, I'll tell you an experience that I had that I was upset about the other day. So my daughter had a doctor's appointment with her pediatrician, just a general checkup. Typically, you want to go to the pediatrician like once a year for a general checkup. And it's been longer than that. It's been a while. And so she has an appointment for next week. And she got a small part in a movie that shoots in Hamilton. So, so I had to cancel. So I called her and said, I'm very sorry. I have to reschedule this appointment, but I really want her to go because it's been a long time and I want her to get her height and her weight and have a chance to check in with the doctor on,
Mm-hmm.
And the next appointment time I was given was for September.
No.
Yeah. Or maybe even October. Like, it was 4 months away. And you're thinking to yourself, like, let's say now she's fully vaccinated, but let's say she wasn't. And the next appointment time I can't get, people could get frustrated. Like, you can't even get an appointment.
Yeah.
Said, if you have a child that's not fully vaccinated, or if you're not fully vaccinated, you can just go to a walk-in clinic. You can go and you can get this vaccine, the MMR vaccine. It's against measles, mumps, and rubella, and it's publicly funded. You don't have to pay for it. It doesn't have to be through your particular pediatrician. You can go and get this vaccine. And I encourage people who aren't fully vaccinated to make sure. And if you don't know your status, like if you have no idea, you can go get a blood test that will check your antibody levels to see if you have it against it. And then you're immune. Or
that's interesting. So even because I'm wondering as well, like we're talking a lot about the children, which makes sense in terms of the time lapse because of COVID. I'm assuming anyone my age has the measles vaccine.
Yeah. So you would think that most people got vaccinated, or when they were, like, I would assume that I had it, but you don't know, or if you're unsure, you can go. And I've had some patients come in and ask me to get their titers checked. So that means, like, see if they still have antibodies. That means they were vaccinated. Or if you're really worried about it, you just get an extra shot. Like, there's no harm in getting a extra shot, unless you're immunocompromised or pregnant. Then we don't want to give you any sort of live vaccine. But it's, I think if you're around a lot, if you're in the healthcare field, if you're around a lot of children,
Mm-hmm.
you're traveling, international travel to areas where it's
Mm.
endemic, then this is something to think about. If you aren't around a lot of kids and you stay at home and you're not really going, probably not something needs to be top of mind. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Melissa, just switching to a stock for a second. So
Yeah.
speaking of travel, let me segue
Okay.
that way. So my husband and I, we've, fallen in love with Italy and Rome in particular, and the food. We've talked about this. The food's so fabulous. You can eat pasta, you don't gain weight. It's so
Mhm.
incredible. So because we've gone a couple times and we're going again, I started to use Duolingo.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Adam's addicted.
Is he?
Addicted.
Is he learning? Okay, so
No,
everybody,
I
so
make
for
fun
anybody
of
who doesn't,
Don. Stop, okay? Because first of all, he did it for Spanish because he was going to Mexico City or something. I don't know. Anyhow, and it's gamified, so it says you have to go on a roll. So he said, I have to do my Duolingo. I have to do my Duolingo. I'm like, or what? What's going to happen? You
right.
know? Are you more afraid of not meeting getting your star or your run? Like you got on a, I don't know. You're doing it now, so you probably know.
Well, I've been doing it and then I stopped. So I'm not as gamified as Adam. Um, but I have to say, I'm not a language person. Like I was always math and art.
Yeah.
And it makes it very easy to learn a new language. And it does make it fun and interesting. And so I'm just bringing it up because I noticed today they just reported their earnings.
Yeah.
Okay. And they had a huge results, great results. Subscribers were up 40% year over year. Daily average users, so DAU is a
Mhm.
metric that we use in a lot of companies. That was up 50% year over year.
Wow.
And yes, and so I'm looking at the stock right now, and the stock is up on a year-to-date basis 46%, 1 year 100%, 5 years 240%.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it trades at $477. But get this, the PE, so the multiple,
Right.
price over earnings,
That,
252 times.
that's crazy.
Crazy to
See,
me.
that's where I look at something like Aritzia. Great. This, no.
Yeah.
But it's addictive and it's a game. And you have to get your streak, right? So that's what it's all about. It's about ways to get you hooked. So make sure that you're on it and you're on it all the time. But this is what I will say about Duolingo. Does it teach you a new language? No. Does it make you think you're learning a new language? Yes. But I make fun of Adam all. So he was doing this Duolingo every night for Spanish. Okay, every night I'd be like, "What are you doing?" And it's annoying the noises it makes. He's like, "I'm getting
Yeah.
my streak." So we go out for dinner with a friend of mine who grew up in Chile, who speaks fluent Spanish. I said, "Adam, talk to her. Talk to her." Okay. He couldn't say one thing. I'm like, "Oh, how's that Duolingo going?" The only way to learn a language is through, and I can't remember which book I read that they talk about the stats. I forget what they're called, people that know multiple languages. You have to
Oh,
immerse yourself in the culture and not be embarrassed to speak. Because the problem is when I go to Paris, like I speak some French, but if I'm in Paris, I'm embarrassed to speak French. And people feel embarrassed for you. So then if they hear your accents off, they switch to English for you,
right.
so don't get a chance to practice. But you have to practice speaking. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be more chance that you go on ChatGPT or you go on one of these AI things.
Right.
You have somebody speak to me and just speak to me in the language.
Right.
That's how you learn. You don't learn from the saying, this word is this, this word is this. But it's fun. Okay, that's my take on it.
Well, okay, the only thing I would say, and the reason why I wanted to do it was because, I almost felt rude when we'd be at the same restaurant or same hotel time after time, and they're so gracious to us, and I can't even really communicate well enough. The basics, the very basics
So
in
what I would
Italian.
say way more effective, and I have no idea what I'm, understand that I actually have no idea what I'm saying. This is my thoughts on this would be if you had a robot, somebody like an AI say, let's have a conversation in Italian and start speaking, as opposed to like, Grazie.
Yeah, grazie. Yep.
What else is it going to teach you? This is
Yeah.
I would like to order a pasta, you know?
It'd be interesting though to see if and how they're incorporating AI.
So maybe they will. Maybe that is how they're
Yeah.
going to. Maybe that's why
Yeah.
it's rating so high, because maybe they will have these AI tourist people that you can talk to. Like once you do the words, that you can go up to that next level of
Can I
actually.
tell you, like knowing Adam well enough and you and Adam together, I would have loved to have been there when you said, talk to her, talk. You probably wanted to like wring your neck.
Probably.
Right?
It was like, talk. All your Spanish. I hear the Spanish every night for the past 3 months. Let's hear it. Oh my God. Yeah, he deserves a medal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So no Duolingo for you on either front, stocks or using it.
I'm curious though, because Snapchat, I'm curious to look at that. All the kids use Snapchat. And it also has the same gamified thing where you get streaks. So Rebecca will be like, I need my phone because I have a streak going with this person, which I guess is how many snaps you send back and forth.
Oh.
So
wait, I thought the kids were off Snapchat.
Not from what I see.
But they were, weren't they? Because
at one time they were saying, are people not using it as much? But all the kids are on Snapchat. All of them.
You're kidding me, because I thought they all went off it to use TikTok. And now they're back on?
TikTok they use as not a communication. TikTok is more passive, just watching. But if they want to communicate with their friends, they're all on Snapchat. And then they can figure out where they can use it for location to figure out who's where. You can see where your friends are. So if you go to the mall, you can see, oh, this friend's here at the mall too. Or,
Well, right now, so Snap is trading, so the ticker is SNAP, trades at $8.36. It's been down about 50% over the past year.
Okay.
So if you see a new trend in that could be interesting.
I see. That's what they're all using.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Let's switch over to another item that you're looking at in healthcare.
So I was looking at the hims and hers. So
describe what hims and hers is again, because we did talk about it, but
yeah. So it's a publicly traded company that deals in healthcare, and their stock has been up a lot because they really boomed with the whole weight loss business about being able to sell compounded versions of Ozempic and Mounjaro and shipping it to patients interested in weight loss. So their business really took off. They also do, prescriptions it's like online prescriptions that they ship to you. So for Viagra, I think it's big business for them. The weight loss drugs. I'm trying to think what else, probably acne medication, a bunch of medications that people want they're not sick, but they want for their lifestyle.
Right.
And it was going to be a big problem. So all of a sudden, now that Novo Nordisk said that there's no more shortage of Ozempic, what that means is that these companies can no longer compound their own. It becomes illegal. Like you can't do that anymore. You're only allowed to compound a drug when there's a shortage, or if they can't get the dose that the patient wants. So now there's Novo Nordisk saying, we have Ozempic and Wegovy in any strength you want, and there's no more shortage. So all of a sudden, it was like, what's going to happen? And so Hims and Herms teamed up with Novo Nordisk, and they're now offering Novo Care, I think their pharmacy, all different strengths of Wegovy and Ozempic at a discounted price for their patients. So these are the ones that don't get it covered by their insurance plans. So I think I was reading that the average dose for the month to sign up with Hims and Hers, you get the prescription for the month. I think it's like $599 per month.
For the month. That's a lot of money.
That's big business. That's why their stock's doing so well. Yeah.
Wow.
It is a lot of money, but people will pay it.
So I'm just looking at it right.
What's going to happen when, I think, look it up. I think it comes off patent in a couple of years. So when that happens, you can get generic and it won't be as expensive. But right now, a lot of people are hooked, because they go off the Wegovy or Ozempic and they gain the weight back.
Do they, Melissa?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I would think that it kind of does change your behavior a bit, right? Like you're not, it does change behavior.
So it depends on the person. You're right. So all of a sudden, for some people, they realize, wow, okay, I was eating too much. I was snacking too much. This is now how I need to eat, and this is what works for my body. And it's learned, and they're able to go off it and keep the weight. Yes. However, for some people who really struggle with food noise and hunger and appetite control, when they go off it, they're just hungrier or start thinking about and having the cravings come back. And those people that I tend to see that gain the weight back.
Okay.
And that's why some people that's why a lot of people, a lot of people go off these drugs because they're expensive, but then a lot of people end up going back on them because they work.
They
So,
work.
I said this all along, all diets work if you stay on them.
Right.
The problem is staying on them.
Yeah.
If this is what people have relied on, there's a lot of people have dieting for years and years and years and years. They know what to do. They're not learning anything new. It's that this drug is finally, like when you listen to Oprah talking about it, it's finally allowed her to have control over that that food noise, that that thing in her brain that's constantly telling her to eat more and to seek out certain foods.
Right. And also too, you become satiated, right? Like it's a pleasure.
You can't, yeah.
If you eat, well, like when you eat, like it's a nice thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just on the stock, so the stock ticker, so everybody remembers what a ticker is. It's the symbol for a company's stock is HIMS. So this is Hims and Hers Health. And the stock as let's see here. Let me do one on a year-to-date basis is up 57%. Now it really got the boost and the bump on the back of this news. So it had kind of cratered a bit a while ago, and but now is resuming. And again, their PE multiple, their valuation is at 74 times. So it's a company that's not making a lot of money right now, hence the higher valuation level. You have to grow into those earnings.
But how much did it jump in the past week on the news?
Let me do 1 month. 1 month is up 33%.
Yeah. Because I imagine it went down first when there was no more shortage. And everybody's saying consumers are going to have less money, blah, blah, blah. And now,
now they made this partnership and it's keeping them afloat.
And I hope that gives Novo stock a bump too, because that had really taken a hit with Eli Lilly's news of their drug being the oral one looking better.
I have to take a look at that, the Novo. All right. Speaking of, what else were we talking about? Where's my head today?
I know.
Where's my head?
It's because of this past week in Canada and with the election, and it's just been a lot.
I think it's been a lot.
It's been a lot to take in. People have had their moods affected. Either very happy if you were hoping for the Liberals, or very upset if you were hoping for a change.
Yeah. I can almost relate to, what we kind of saw on Instagram with the Democrats and the Republicans. Remember, like you'd see people on Instagram that like chop their hair off. Do you remember all that? Like, like it was that extreme for people. Yeah.
And I don't remember a Canadian election ever feeling that way before.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. Mark, just with respect to the markets, though, I think it's important. We kind of said this a little bit at the beginning, but there's been so much volatility, as we know, surrounding the tariffs. But we have had, 9 sessions of up days in the United States. The TSX also on track to be okay this week, like up 1% or so. But for those U.S. markets up like over 8%, and it is because of there's hope that there's progress on the China trade with the United States. We'll see. But it's amazing that with all the volatility and the concern in the market, that, if we were down significantly, we're now down only 1% after all those major swings in the market.
Which is why you could have and it caused people so much turmoil and, stress and everything. And if you just kind of ignored it, we're back at, We're basically back at where we're now. That being said, on all those days where there's those big dips, it would have been great if you just kept buying those dips.
That's right. But I agree, and I have been putting some money to work. At the same time, when we put some money to work, I put some money to work, the market still went down. So it's been a
Yeah,
very difficult
volatile.
time to know the right thing to do. But but it has worked. But what I would say though, stepping back, so the bullish case is what we just said. Maybe there's going to be some progress on the tariff front. But one thing to be cognizant of that does get talked about in the United States as well as in Canada is stagflation. So
Okay,
that means,
yeah.
stagflation is very low growth with inflation. So if you have low growth in the economy, you're probably not going to get a raise, you're not going to get a bonus, and and maybe you'll lose your job because the companies can't afford to keep you on. So low growth causes all of that. And you pair that with inflation. So you're not making as much money, and you've got
it's getting expensive. I think that isn't that what they're worried about what's going to happen in Canada.
Yeah, so that's a big thing right now. So because we just had, we essentially have had no growth, as I've said, for 10 years, and we do have inflation, and everything has gotten more expensive. And then with the tariffs adding on to that, that just causes more. So there's that aspect in Canada. And then also in the United States, they just reported their GDP, which did disappoint. Very low growth in the United States. And it was in combination with higher than expected inflation. So there is the potential they have stagflation in the United States as well as Canada. So
well, that doesn't sound like a very good kind of stag.
No, that's not a good stag. Not a good stag.
Oh, stag and not good.
No. And we should point out as well, like Amazon just reported their quarterly results. And the sales and profit were better than expected, but they are expecting a weaker outlook. And the CEO even said on their conference call that the tariffs represent a dark cloud.
Yeah.
So, so we had Amazon report this week, and then also Apple. And, I'm sure people saw that they are looking to move their production and increase the production in India. But at the same time, too, there is still the issue with the tariffs on the products that are made in China. Most of those products, though, that are made in China go to the rest of the world and not the United States. Like that's how they're trying to split it up. But nonetheless, that stock is down by about 3% today. A lot of big money managers, I think, are on the view that it's dead money for a while until they get through this. One analyst calls it the tariff tornado for Apple. But at the same time, you have other analysts saying that, Apple, the fundamentals are still very strong, very much intact, and a very decent quarterly result in a tough environment. And one of the higher price targets I saw is $270. So again, different views. The analysts have different views. Hence, we all have different views. Hence, the market moves.
Yeah, I think analysts are a lot like weathermen.
Weatherman. Oh, no. Melissa.
It's going to be cloudy, and then it's sunny, and then it's going to be sunny.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? No one can predict the weather. It's so hard to predict. Yeah, it's hard. You're getting a front coming, and then it's very hard to predict the weather the same way but I believe these people study meteorology and everything, and they're trying, and they're using all the best tools they have. Just some things are hard to predict.
They are. But having been on that side, if you follow companies long enough and the company management, there are some really great analysts out there. I worked for a really great analyst, really great.
Well,
he could get the stocks right.
Meta is an interesting one. Did they report their earnings?
They did. I didn't follow it too closely, but yes.
So, because I follow Mark Zuckerberg on Instagram, and he posted this interesting video about Meta AI and the advances they're making with their Meta AI. And I thought it was interesting. And it just made me want to own even more Meta.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the market liked the results. It's up 10% over the past week.
Yeah. There was some concern, I think, about a lawsuit coming up or something about their I forget I think something's coming up for them. I forget what I read, but I think it's strong. And I think he's strong as a leader. So,
If you want to, then you can add to.
Yeah.
You can add to. Okay, what's on your docket? What else?
I think that's it. I wanted to talk about the measles. I wanted to talk about the acne vaccine, the hims and hers. The only other thing that I thought that caught my attention was a study on, and I think I touched on this a couple weeks ago, that they now have evidence that, we're seeing a real increase in early onset colorectal cancer, like in young people. And they now have found that a certain toxin released from bacteria, the E. coli bacteria, if you're exposed to it early in life, it can change the DNA of, I guess, the cancer cells, leading them to mutate and become, and that's why you're seeing some of these early cancers. So it's like, well, what causes this? So it's because this bacterial toxin changes the microbiome. And they think that maybe kids being more exposed to antibiotics young age, potentially what's changing that gut microbiome, making them less able to defend against this bacterial toxin. It was a confusing article. I mean, there was a lot of advanced science in it, so I don't want to,
alarm anyone.
Alarm it or simplify down to that. But it just made me take pause and think, okay, so a lot of the time, people think, oh, just give me an antibiotic, just give me an antibiotic, just give me an antibiotic. Or they think that for their kids. Oh, they probably have strep, probably an infection, just give me an antibiotic. And they get annoyed sometimes with the doctors, like, well, it's probably viral. But there is a reason we don't want to overprescribe antibiotics when they're not needed. I mean, one, we don't want resistance, but obviously it can also change the gut microbiome that's protective. So, so
interesting.
Okay. And it's not the type of thing like be scared, of an antibiotic. You need it. Absolutely not. But it's just something to, think about.
Speaking of younger people, lastly, let's just end on this because it's so cute and positive. Rebecca's going to be in a movie.
Yeah, she got a part. It's going to be a feature film. And she's playing the daughter. So it's just a small part, but yeah, so she has to be on set next week for 4 days.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. So it's really fun. So she loves it.
It's amazing. So when you say feature film, what does that mean?
Full length film.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's so hard to keep track of all the lingo with this in the acting world. Like, you have to wait for your call sheet and all the work. It's like we talk about whenever you learn a new discipline, you're learning a new language. Well, I haven't really learned the new language
of
acting yet. So I think feature film means a full length movie as opposed to like a short or but
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's exciting. And then I have another dance competition I have to go to on Saturday.
No.
Yes. April, May are the dance competition months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's busy.
You're a real dance mom.
Yeah, I've embraced it. We had fun the last time. The last one in Niagara Falls was actually fun. Moms went out for dinner.
Yeah, I saw your picture.
Yeah, it's like a full.
It's full on culture.
Like I had no idea how many dance studios there were. Also, like there's so many dance studios. Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Big business.
Big business.
Big business.
You need to do something in business with the dance mom stuff.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah, it's true. Honestly, create the perfect comb. Create the perfect way, something, and then it's like, all done. Well, that's like
the perfect barrette.
Yeah, that's like this rack and roll thing. They're like, oh, well, she's going to be in many dances. You need to get this rack and roll. This rack and roll is like a bag that has a clothing rack bar that comes up so they can hang up all their costumes, and then it's collectible that you put the back. And all these girls are with their rack and roll. These rack and rolls are so expensive, it's insane. Okay, it's crazy. It's like a wardrobe on wheels. Like I might pick the rack and roll on my next trip. Anyhow,
they make them for adults or just small children's clothes?
Well, you could hang up any type of,
Actually, with the short dresses we wear,
it's
childlike.
They're childlike, exactly. You could put some shirts or crop tops or bikinis.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wait, you called it what you have a great name too. You said wardrobe on wheels. Just make
Yeah.
your own. There you go.
Yeah, I should. Wardrobe on
Yeah.
wheel.
Yeah. I
Add
like
it to
it.
the list.
Okay. Add it to the list of add it to the to-do list of everything we do. All right, we'll leave it on that note.
Okay. See you
Okay,
later.
talk to you later. Yeah.
Bye.